One thing that we've seen is there are people who say that empathy is a liability. And I say, I care, therefore I am. So, what if care is infrastructure? As we look at building technology startups in this environment with all the disruptions that are there and all that sort of stuff, one of the essential ideas that gets massively overlooked is, here we're building all these incredible things, but we forget about care. We forget about like caring for building startups, building companies, building tools where people care about each other. And in a down economy, it's one of the places that's going to always have a customer. I celebrate the pioneers, the revolutionaries, and the guardians, the entrepreneurs that are actually building tools and startups that really matter in the world. They're not trying to be empire builders. They're actually looking at building tools that really matter, the type of things that support each other. Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. Heidegger, as a philosopher, begins with care. But entrepreneurs who lead with care build movements. And what's happening right now with all of the crisis we're in, you are called to drive a movement. And that movement is about care. This is because if you're caring for others, there's always going to be a market for what you want to sell. But even more fundamentally, what is it to be human? Right now, we're in this deficit of care in the world. We're in this void of compassion. And as entrepreneurs, when we care about others and when we create platforms that create opportunities for each other to care about others and will get larger communities into it, that is what drives the world. That's what builds healthy cultures. And that's what's needed and called for in this market right now, in this day and age. So the real problem that we're up against is, I call it Silicon Valley porn. A lot of times you'll see that one man somehow single-handedly built a multi-billion dollar company. It's a lie. It's a lie. But what happens is when people think that that Silicon Valley porn is real, they start looking for status over service. That is, look at me, I'm up on top of the hill. Well, the truth is, it was not a single-handed thing. There was a whole group of people that supported this individual or that individual to get to a certain point. And the second thing is, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I really care about myself, the ones that are actually building things that matter in the world, they sometimes get overlooked because they think that the guy with a big ego who's yelling really loud from the top of the hill is somehow the leader. That's not true. The leaders are the individuals that are really making a difference, and sometimes they're doing it quietly. The third thing is, there really needs to be a fundamental commitment. Right now, some of the platforms that we have in the technology world are why we're in such a bad place. There's lack of commitment to what's fundamental, the idea of actually why we're here and working with each other. And then finally, a lot of times there are organizations that act like they care, but it's performative in that they don't really, truly mean it. At the end of the day, if you pull back the curtains on a lot of these organizations, you see that they're not really doing things that really care about each other. It's just all marketing versus a depth of really serving the other. So let me give you an example. I go to travel the world, and I've worked with entrepreneurs in all these different countries, 23 countries over the last 8 years. In 2021, I got to work with the Hungarian government and this one university called BME in Budapest, Hungary. And I came across this one technology. Actually, it was still science at the time. It's now become a product. But this was a prostate cancer test. Now, here in the United States, even in this day, we still have men dying from prostate cancer. And you have to ask yourself, how is it possible that one of the cancers that can be prevented the most, do we still have people dying? Well, the truth is that the test that is being used for prostate cancer determination to even see if you have the problem, that test is not very accurate. And the next step in the whole process is really painful. And so men just ignore it. Technology in Hungary, it's about 1,000 times more accurate than the test that's being used day in, day out here in the United States. By screening men earlier, we can prevent a lot of the deaths, the needless deaths and the needless suffering. You might say, well, what is it that really matters about this? Well, the truth is, here in the United States, I don't think healthcare is going to get solved here. It's going to get solved in a bunch of different places. Or there's a guy named Bill Joy. He said it this way. Let me use his metaphor. He said, there are more brains outside of your company than inside your company. You could also think of this in terms of there's more brains outside of your country than inside your country. If we really are truly committed to solving world problems, part of what we can do is leverage all of this insight and take on issues. But really, there's the breakdown that's there is there's not a collaboration infrastructure that makes this possible. If people and entrepreneurs truly worked with each other, we could decimate all these issues overnight. We could do it really radically fast and do it in a lower cost than everyone could imagine is even possible. It's because we leverage insight from different parts of the world. I was in Sarajevo about 6 weeks ago, and at that time as well, they came up with a different way of attacking liver cancer. Why wouldn't we open the world up and create a collaboration architecture to pull all of these tools together to solve these problems overnight? We can drop the cost and we could also really take on the suffering that's there. And not to mention that in this market, all these issues that are being ignored right now can be picked up and end up becoming the new jobs that replace some of the old jobs that are being lost to AI and other things that are out there. We can create new things that weren't there before. So if you want to see the world that I see and you want to see the opportunities that are possible that I get to see, especially with the access that I have in traveling the world, you got to start with one thing. Don't see care as charity. See care as infrastructure. That is the way we look at how we solve these problems. If we approach the problem set by looking at it from a caring about the world, we create an operating system that allows us to open up other things. Especially when we're talking about different relationships cross border, it's because if you're plugged into other entrepreneurs that care, that are solving these problems, you can find the collaborations that make it possible. You can create the operating system so that we can really take on the problem sets. It's the entrepreneurs that are driving as pioneers, guardians, and revolutionaries. These people who care, they make it happen. If you're wondering why I use these words, I did a previous video. Go watch that video and you can kind of get a little bit more about what do I mean by those type of entrepreneurs and why we should celebrate them and how we can support them to help them in their missions. All right. So one place to look at it, a lot of people might say, hey, Kevin, I'm not so sure I believe in this. Let me point to some business dynamics. So part of what I have seen in being involved in a lot of open source software communities, it's about you and I working with each other. You know, I don't work for you, you don't work for me, but we can work together collaboratively. Open source software has been showing us how to do this, how to build businesses like this. It's about the idea that there's a fundamental opportunity for us to collaborate. Second part of that that's important is if you have a lot of people looking at the problems, you can find it faster. The same thing is true when you have a group of community of entrepreneurs that's there to support you to say, hey, I don't know how to do the following thing, but someone else, has 5 minutes that they're going to offer to you. And during that 5 minutes, they give you $10,000 worth of value because they help you figure out what's broken in your company. This set of concepts is one of the things that's empowering how we work with entrepreneurs and how entrepreneurs around the TechCrunch community are working with each other. It's one of the ways we drop the cost associated with building successful businesses. This is not about building an empire and towers. Part of what we're doing is setting tables that people do business with each other. It's all about getting on the same table, not standing in some tower and lording over everyone. By working with each other, we can actually really make things happen quickly. Part of the thing I would like you to reflect on first off is to recognize that what built the world is collaboration, not competition. Competition plays a part, but collaboration is more important. And so to get involved to this idea of care, part of the idea of participating in it is to just shift your mind. And so the number one thing to start with is this idea in itself of building platforms and products that express care and that unleash the care that we find among people. The second thing is think about it this way. Part of the way that you can serve others is enabling their dream or taking on their suffering. There's a space for this. Of course, I'm leading with entrepreneurs because I believe that entrepreneurs are the vanguard of this work. Plugging in is as simple as looking for ways that you can serve others and build a business around it. Because at the end of the day, care is structural power. What do I mean by that? It's because that this basic idea, when we look at how the world has been built, we can support others and build those kind of businesses. The most fundamental thing as a human is when we care. Caring together is how we become human. Caring together is how we build society. We change the world when we care. As you reflect on this conversation today, when we care, what are you going to do today? When we care, what's the possibility for how you're going to express your own humanness in the next week? When we care, we can make a difference. And this is where we start. I ask you to think about that. You're saying, hey, that sounds great, Kevin, but how do I make this happen? In the next session, we're going to talk about when we care, how we deliver on that. And with that, I look forward to catching up with you soon. See you in the next video.